1,182 local cases, including 1,185 PCR positive cases, as well as 1,991 RAT positive cases successfully declared and confirmed by PCR. We also have 254 imported cases, including 217 PCR cases and 37 RAT positive cases. As for the hospital authority, they reported 3 death cases to us. So cumulatively, we have recorded 9,227 death cases since the start of the 5th wave. Well, I'll give the floor to the HA. There are altogether 1,182 confirmed cases in HA facilities, with 149 of them being new cases. And for those requiring isolation, 375 are in isolation wards, 27 in Tier 2 wards, and 373 in North Entire Hospital Hong Kong Infection Control Center, and 124 of them are new cases. We reported 1 more patient in critical condition and 14 in serious condition as of yesterday. And altogether for inpatients, we have 17 patients in critical condition and 38 in serious conditions. 4 patients in critical condition are receiving care in the ICU. Yesterday, 3 patients passed away, including 1 male, 2 females, aged 58 to 108. None of them were care home residents. 1 received 3 jabs and 2 received 2 jabs. And some more information about these patients. The first case involved a 60-year-old female who had 3 doses of vaccine. And on the 11th of July, she attended the AN unit of Yan Chai Hospital because of her fainting at home. And according to the information her family members provided, the family members tested positive 5 days ago. And when checking the ECG, we detected signs of cardiac infarction, and we administered resuscitation. She was intubated, but her condition was poor, and after resuscitation, her pulse and breathing resumed. She was admitted to intensive care units, and upon the PCR test administered, she was found to be positive with a CT value greater than 20. She was given medication, and she was also given a cardiac booster shot. And on the 16th of July, she had a brain seizures at about 3:30 in the morning. On the 17th of July, she passed away. The second patient was a 58-year-old male, a DM patient. On the 16th of July in the evening, he attended the A&E unit of Kwun Mun Hospital. He had difficulty breathing, and upon ECG checking, again, the infarction was detected. The RAT test result was negative, but on admission to hospital, he tested positive by PCR with a value of 27.8, and he also received the heart booster shots, and he also received cardiac treatment, but he was in poor condition. His heartbeat once stopped, and he was given machine support. His condition continued to deteriorate, and he passed away in the small hours on the 17th of July. The third patient was a 101-year-old female who had underlying conditions. He had shortness in breathing and low blood oxygen level. She was admitted to hospital on the 12th, and upon testing, the CT value was found to be 26.9, and upon admission, we continued to administer oxygen support and other forms of treatment. Her condition continued to deteriorate, and she passed away in the afternoon of the 17th. I'll give the floor back to Dr. Zhang. We have 254 imported cases, including 145 picked up at the airport, and also 89 cases detected at quarantine hotels, and also 20 cases picked up after they've left the quarantine hotels. These cases involve arrivals from different places, 40 places, including 7 cases with more than 10 imported cases recorded from these origins, 64 from UK, 24 from Thailand, 21 from Australia, 16 from Singapore, and then 14 from USA, and also 12 from India. As for the 33 other places, we recorded less than 10 cases imported from these countries. As for residential care homes, we received reports from 4 residential care homes for the elderly and 1 RCHD, and some residents will be sent to quarantine. 富麗怡安老院 1 resident tested positive. 同歡護老院 1 resident tested positive. 崇德安老院遠東分院 1 resident tested positive. 欣怡護老之家有限公司 1 resident tested positive, and also 1 RCHD. 靈實翠林智樂居 again 1 resident tested positive. As for schools, today's Monday, we have 548 schools reporting 888 positive cases, including 701 students and 137 teaching staff. They are from 110 kindergartens, 241 primary schools, 185 secondary schools, and 12 special schools. As for the 888 cases, not all of them tested positive today. 202 tested this morning, 287 tested positive on Sunday, 220 tested positive on Saturday, and 179 cases tested positive earlier than Saturday. So we're talking about some daily average of 200 to 287 positive cases, and we have 8 more schools. The individual classes of which will be suspended. St. Louis Secondary School, Class 1D, there are 29 students with 4 confirmed cases. So this class will be suspended for a week. St. Car School in Pingchao, in Class 1D, 3 students tested positive, will be suspended for 1 week. Puito School, kindergarten in Ma Tau Chung, K2A, that's the class with 30 students, and 2 students, 1 teacher test positive. They'll be suspended for 1 week. And in Tsinghua Street, North Point, KCC Primary School, K1H, the afternoon class, there are 19 students, and 2 students, 2 teachers have tested positive. They'll be suspended for a week. As for Rose Hill School in Wan Chai, Class 6A, 4 students tested positive. They were suspended for 1 week. Sun Fang Zhong Xiu of Hong Kong and Kowloon Kai Fong Association, 2 classes, Class 4C, 30 students, and 3 students of them testing positive, and Class 6C, 24 students with 3 testing positive. These 2 classes will be suspended for a week. 中華基督教會播道會欣怡幼兒學校 in 西貢 N1, Class N1, 32 pupils, 3 pupils testing positive, is suspended for 1 week. Wellington Education Institution, Zhang Pui Chong Memorial School in Sai Kung, Class 3A, 35 students, and 4 of them testing positive. Again, this will be suspended for a week. Previously, we had this St. Catherine International School in Norfolk Road. Some coach drivers tested positive, and also bus 18. Some helpers and coach drivers and teachers tested positive. And on this bus 18, they have morning and afternoon departures using the same coach but with different staff. For the morning departure, 4 more students have tested positive. So for students taking the same coach, they will be subject to quarantine as well. For nursery C AM class of the same kindergarten, 2 students in this class took coach 18. We recorded 1 more case not having taken this coach. We suspect transmission within the class. So morning class N1C would be subject to suspension for 1 week. And also for upper 7 AM class, a teacher also took this coach before, and now we have two more students confirmed. And we have advised upper 7 AM class to be suspended for a week. As for subvariants, BA.2.12.1, we recorded 82 cases, 44 of them being untraceable cases and 30 cases with epidemiological link with other cases. For BA.4.5 cases, there are 30 suspected cases, 8 of them related to other cases and 22 untraceable cases. That's all from me.
另外 in the past day, 86 patients have recovered, 73 have been discharged. 2 patients were picked up during admission screening, and 2 patients and staff members are listed as close contacts. 71 more staff members tested positive, taking the total to 25,200, and 30 more have returned to the post, taking the number to 27,701. North District Hospital, male ward, 3 tested positive, 2 nurses and 1 phlebotomist, and the staff member are in stable condition, and the patient has been tested repeatedly. The patient tested negative, and the patient was infected before, and there are some remnants in the body, and the number of infected patients has reduced from 5 to 4, and there were 6 staff members who were infected. Hong Kong Buddhist Hospital in the palliative care, 3 more female patients were infected, ranging in age between 85 and 95, in stable condition, and they are in isolation for treatment. There are 13 patients, 5 staff members who tested positive in the ward. It has been thoroughly disinfected, and the hospital will monitor the patients and the situation. Now it's time for a question. Please identify the organization you represent. Gentleman at the back, please. Doctors, TVB. There is a disease case, a 60-year-old. He passed out at home and was sent to Yan Chai Hospital. He tested positive 3 days ago. Has he been sent to the isolation facilities? What sort of ailment was he suffering from? You mentioned the myocardial infarction. Is he suitable for home isolation? Now, for the St. Catherine International Kindergarten, there are more and more classes of students who come down with COVID. Can you tell us how many bus routes and how many classes are involved? Is there any chain of transmission in the school? Other than suspending those classes, do you see the merit of suspending the entire school? Hong Kong Buddhist Hospital, there are some patients who tested positive. Where is the source of infection? Is it because they are not wearing any mask, and that's causing the transmission? Right about the 60-year-old female, other than hypertension, she's also suffering from renal failure, and she had to have the hemodialysis. She passed out at home. From our information, 5 days ago, she tested RAT positive. For the other information, we don't have much in detail. In terms of treatment, the ECG results show a clear cardio infection, and there is support for this diagnosis. And her death doesn't have any direct link with COVID. For the St. Catherine International Kindergarten, once they became aware of outbreak on board the bus operation has already stopped, and they have already changed the bus route. So the cases are cases arising from the previous cases. Now, for bus number 18, there are 9 for the PM, and there are 4 students. And we are very careful, and there are 2 classes that are involved. We have advised them to suspend the 2 classes, and we hope that this is not a large-scale transmission. We don't really want to close the entire school willy-nilly. Gentleman's not speaking through. For the Hong Kong Buddhist Hospital, the outbreak started with a female patient who tested positive on the 13th of July, and she has been sent to QEH for isolation. For this index patient, she was admitted to Hong Kong Buddhist Hospital in mid-June, and she left, and there was some compassionate visitation. We are still ascertaining the source of infection. However, in this particular ward, the patient's physical conditions were poor, with a poor immunity, and she ran a high risk of infection. And the recovery from COVID is also a little bit slower. So that's why there are more patients involved. A lady in the middle, please. Cable news. There are news that in Kowloon East Regional Office, in the police, there are some cases. Is it true? If there is a cluster there, why didn't the CHP not announce it? Was it because of dining together that the police get in touch with the members of the public? How likely is it transmitted? Dr. Ho Pak Lau suggested that the RTD can be suspended. How likely is it? Now, for the 58-year-old male patient, he tested positive. When was he infected? How was he infected? Was he tested positive or negative in the first place? What outbreak did you talk about? 70 people? We haven't noticed this situation so far. The experts might offer different opinions, which we do respect. The government would have taken into consideration a whole basket of factors. For the 58-year-old male patient, he went to the A&E in Tuen Mun on 16th of July, and he had low blood pressure and myocardial infarction, and he tested negative upon admission. He had the PCR test on the 16th, and he tested positive at 27.8, and that's a case that we picked up upon admission. The infection probably came from the community. Gentleman at the back, over there, please. Now TV. For the North District Hospital, the male patient in the internal medicine ward who tested positive last week was infected in the hospital and outside the hospital, and it's in Catherine International Kindergarten. The new infections, are they related to earlier outbreaks? I mentioned yesterday about the NDH, the male ward, that the index patient tested negative when he first was admitted, and then he tested positive. It was probably an infection inside the hospital. For the St. Catherine International Kindergarten, there was an outbreak on board a bus. There were some bus drivers who transmitted the virus. Now, for bus number 18, the PM session, there is a cumulative 9 cases. For the morning session, we are aware that there were 4 cases involving students. For these 2 causes, the other students will have to be quarantined because we figured that there is transmission on the bus. And there are 2 classes in which some pupils were infected. They were not bus users. Nursery C, in the morning session, there is 1 student plus 2 bus riders. Altogether, there are 3. And upper 7 a.m. session, there was a teacher who came down with COVID, and there are 2 students who tested positive. So for these 2 causes, we're worried about some transmission going on. So these 2 classes have to be suspended for a week.
Next.
Phil TV News. So the first question would be, how do you see the government experts allowing children below 3 years old to get vaccinated, and how would the authorities to ensure these vaccines would be safe for the children? And also, my second question is, any close contacts of the Director of Environment Protection, Janice Tse, are infected or test positive in RAT or PCR? And also, we saw a growing number in St. Catherine's International Garden. So will the authorities consider to suspend all the classes at the school? And what do you suggest the school to do to curb the spread? Thank you.
The vaccination for children under 3 is one of the agenda items in the Joint Scientific Committee expert advisory panel in the coming meeting. So I do not have any. I will not comment on the details until the meeting is over. And for the St. Catherine kindergarten. I think there's an outbreak affecting the drivers of the school bus, and we found that the school bus number 18, the PM session, has had cumulatively 9 cases involving 6 students, 1 driver, 1 caretaker, and 1 teacher. And subsequently today, we note that in the AM session of that bus, there are also 4 students affected. I think they have been affected previously. And also, we note that in 2 classes, there may be some transmission. That's why we advise precautionary suspension of class for the 2 specified classes. For the buses, I understand the school has suspended the bus operation from that company on first reporting of the outbreak among the school buses. So they have changed the buses already, and we have advised concerned classes to suspend face-to-face teaching. In the meantime, hopefully this will help to curb the spread among the classes.
Next question. This one in the back row. I'm from News. I have a question about North District Hospital. A 82-year-old male patient was in critical condition yesterday. I'd like to know the update of his situation. Does he have any underlying conditions? And there are many more cases in public hospitals now. And according to experts, for high-risk staffers, they should be subject to PCR test twice a week. Do you think that this measure is sufficient, or are there other measures that can lower the risk of transmission? Thank you. You mentioned North District Hospital, in which there is a confirmed case. Is a 70-year-old patient in critical condition. He remains in critical condition, but he also has some underlying illnesses. He has pneumonia. His condition is poor, and he is relying on breathing support, and he's on anti-viral drugs as well. And as for public hospitals situation, we do require PCR tests to be conducted on top of RAT tests. This is designed for our staff members who serve high-risk patients who require, for example, hemodialysis or cancer patients. And the hospital authority would keep in view the situation, and if need be, we can step up the measures concerned. Next question. This gentleman in the middle. I'm from Ming Pao. Good afternoon. My question for Dr. Zhang is about St. Catherine's International School. You talked about the students riding on a bus requiring quarantine. Will they be subject to quarantine only, or face suspension, class suspension as well? As for K3C and upper class 7, did these confirmed cases take the same bus as well, and also RTD operation. What is the percentage of positive cases identified in these operations, and what is the CHP's position on the effectiveness of RTD operations in identifying positive cases? And about this case, upon review, to be found negative in the North District Hospital, when did the negative result come back, and would the patient be allowed to go home, or would he be subject to quarantine? For St. Catherine's International Kindergarten, in nursery C, 2 students took the morning departure of bus 18, and the other case in the same class did not take this bus. We are concerned about in-class transmission. For upper 7 class, 1 teacher took the PM departure of the same bus. The 2 students confirmed, however, did not take that bus. So again, we are concerned about in-class transmission. We have advised these 2 classes to be suspended for a week. For bus riders, there are quite a number of them. For the afternoon departure, there are 9 confirmed cases. For the morning departure, we have 6 cases, including the nanny and the drivers and the teacher. So we are quite sure that there is transmission on board. So depending on the home environment, these students will be subject to home quarantine or otherwise. As for RTD operations, the decision is based on the cases found in sewage samples or more cases identified. And in fact, we've been able to identify more positive cases in some buildings. Let me supplement about North District Hospital. You referred to a case in critical condition. He's an 82-year-old male patient. He had a stroke in his cerebellum, and he also has pneumonia. So this is in line with what I've reported. And you also asked about another 80-year-old male patient ultimately testing negative. On admission to hospital, he had 2 PCR tests with negative results, but on the 3rd test, he had a positive PCR result with a CT value greater than 30. So based on his condition, we tested him again, and we believe that there could be residual viral load for this case, whilst this case is not highly transmissible. So we do not require him to be put in an isolation ward. I'd like to emphasize that this patient is the patient we talked about who is in critical condition. Next, this gentleman in white. I'm from AM 730 about St. Catherine's International Kindergarten. How many students would be quarantined? And 港九街坊婦女會, that memorial school also had 2 confirmed cases in the same class. Do they share any similar characteristics? Is there any transmission? For the compulsory testing notice, we note that last night the 1 karaoke is included in the CTN. Has it to do with a staff member being infected? Is there any outbreak leading to this karaoke included in the CTN? And also last week, Dr. Zhuang commented that by outbreak, you mean there are more than 10 cases, but now we see more restaurants listed in your notice. Are there any small-scale transmissions involving fewer than 10 cases? As for St. Catherine's International Kindergarten, for the afternoon session, some 20, I think, I don't remember, 26 students, of which 6 students have been confirmed. And in the morning, some 30 students, and for those negative cases to be subject to quarantine as well. And I think you just referred to subvariant cases. Perhaps these cases visited restaurants or they had mask-off activities. So during the incubation period, these premises will be listed in the CTNs, and we also detected some small-scale outbreaks despite not having a large number of cases. That's why they've been listed on the CTNs.
Lady at the far end in black. On orange news about the HKKWA in Fengchong Primary School. Which student became infected first and when? And are the two causes in any way related in terms of transmission? And the Checkang Primary School, what is the source of infection? When was the onset for the first infected student? And did the teachers have meals together? Did they engage in any mask-off activities? Yes, the HKKWA in Fengchong Primary School, there are some sporadic cases. There are two causes that have chalked up 3 cases. We're not sure how they are related. Maybe just a sheer coincidence. There are 3 cases in the class, so we advise that they be suspended for a week. For the Checkang Primary School, there are students and there are teachers who get infected. We advise that it be suspended for a week. They all wear face masks, but Omicron has a high transmissibility. There are some positive cases hanging around there. There may be some transmission despite the wearing of face masks. If the face masks are not snugly close to the face, and there might be transmission still. So that's why we insisted there should be RAT tests every day. If there are cases, they should stop going to school to make sure that there will not be any COVID positive cases inside the school. Unless there are further questions, that's it for today. Thank you all very much.
個別個案我就唔會
I'm not going to address any individual cases.